So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
Yes.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
Yes.
I have a dream that one day
Yes.
this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
This was the America I grew up believing in. Not perfect, but getting better. Moving towards unity, towards fairness, where character mattered more than color. I truly believe that. But then the words changed. Justice became judgment, and what united us now divides us, and nobody's asking why. Not long ago, woke meant raising awareness and pushing for change. But now a darker strain has emerged, angrier, bolder, willing to use fear, force, even violence to get its way. They call it justice, others call it intimidation. This is dark woke, a militant cousin of the woke culture, where hashtags give way to bricks, and a disagreement can cost you your job, your reputation, or even worse. So how did the call for equality become a tool for control? And who's really pulling the strings? If fear replaces debate, is this still activism or the rise of a new authoritarianism? When violence and intimidation are rebranded as justice, where does that road end? Let's try and find out.
Hello, I'm Mike Droberg, a Marine Corps veteran and filmmaker, and we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
In the world I grew up in, Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't just a figure in a textbook. He was the moral compass. His dream wasn't controversial. It was the goal. We were told to treat people the same, no matter their race. Color blindness wasn't ignorance, it was decency. And the best way to overcome racism was to stop obsessing over race. Through the late 20th century, it felt like we were closing that gap. From the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to school integration. From workplace anti-discrimination laws to seeing people of every background working side by side. The barriers weren't all gone, but they were falling. By the 1990s and early 2000s, you could feel it. The idea that America could truly become a meritocracy didn't seem far-fetched. People were judged more by their ability and work ethic than the color of their skin. Even politics occasionally found moments of unity, from the fall of the Berlin Wall to shared national pride in moments of crisis, to the election of the U.S.'s first black president, Barack Obama. Woke began in that era as a simple warning, call to stay awake to injustice. It was grassroots, local, and focused on real, tangible change, housing discrimination, police abuse, and unfair labor practices. But the meaning began to shift, slowly at first, then all at once. In universities, new theories took root, ideas that divided society into permanent categories of oppressor and oppressed, where your group identity mattered more than your actions or your character. And once those ideas left the universities, they didn't stay in academic journals. They began appearing in corporate boardrooms, in school lesson plans, and government policy. That's when woke began to evolve, or mutate, into something else, something louder. Something that would stop asking for change and start demanding it by any means necessary. The shift from stay awake to injustice to divide the world by identity didn't happen overnight. It was built in the classrooms, publishing houses, and social media feeds. In the late 20th century, academic theories like the critical race theory and intersectionality existed mostly on campus. They were niche, debated by professors and grad students. But over time, those ideas escaped the seminar room and began filtering into popular culture. Authors like Ibram X. Kendi became household names. His book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, didn't just sell millions of copies, it reframed the conversation. According to Kendi, there's no such thing as not racist. You're either actively anti-racist or you're part of the problem. It was a simple, absolutist message, tailor-made for the social media era.
You talked about the importance of defining racism. How do you define racism?
Sure. So racism, I would define it as a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
Circular reasoning, very enlightening. Kendi's framework left no room for neutrality, and corporations took notice. HR departments, school districts, and government agencies began hosting mandatory trainings based on similar principles. In these sessions, identity wasn't just part of your story, it defined your moral standing. Then came the media amplification. Social networks rewarded outrage, and the new language of wokeness became the default vocabulary for journalists, activists, and celebrities. The more divisive the message, the more clicks and shares it got. Corporations, sensing both opportunity and risk, jumped in. They rebranded themselves as champions of equity, not equality. The difference was subtle, but important. Equality meant everyone played by the same rules. Equity meant adjusting the rules to engineer equal outcomes. Backed by powerful asset managers like BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, controlling over $9 trillion, companies that hit diversity and inclusion benchmarks scored better environmental, social, and governance (ESG) ratings. Higher ratings meant access to billions of investment capital. So companies began changing hiring policies, adopted activist language, and enforced DEI training, not to boost productivity, but to stay in the good graces of the investors, controlling the largest capital flows on Earth. What started as an academic debate has become a global corporate standard. And with money, media, and political influence behind it, woke culture wasn't just an idea anymore, it was policy. But as it spread, something else began to grow alongside it, a more aggressive, militant strain that didn't just want to influence the system, it wanted to confront, dismantle, and if necessary, burn it down. Every moment needs fuel. For dark woke, that fuel isn't just anger, it's money, influence, and power. And when every major corporation you deal with, your bank, your grocery store, your streaming service, is using the same playbook, it stops feeling like a choice. It becomes the default culture. And while the corporate side can pull back when political winds change, like what BlackRock has recently done, quietly dropping DEI language from its reports under pressure, the militant wing doesn't just pause. It keeps pushing harder and louder. Dark woke isn't a corporate slogan or diversity seminar. It's the one that doesn't want a seat at the table. It wants to flip the table over. This is where peaceful protests give way to direct confrontation. Federal buildings vandalized, streets blocked, and yes, ICE agents dodging rocks and boulders. It's the side that sees fear as a tool and intimidation as justice. Online, it operates like a swarm. Step out of line, and the mob descends, doxing your address, harassing your family, swamping your employer with demands to fire you. Offline, it shows up at your home or workplace, cameras rolling, ready to make an example of you. For dark woke, there's no middle ground. Disagreement is treated as violence. Silence is complicity. And that absolutism doesn't just target its enemies. It can turn on its allies who don't move fast enough or parrot the right slogans. The danger isn't just the chaos it creates in the streets, but in the way it accelerates cultural division. It pushes people further into corners, some doubling down on the ideology out of fear, while others rejecting it so hard they won't engage in discussion of justice at all. However, in 2025, DEI is no longer just under fire. It's being stripped piece by piece. At the federal level, Trump's second-term executive orders have wiped government DEI programs clean. Executive Order 14151 labeled these efforts radical and wasteful, ordering the dissolution of DEI offices, contract cancellations, and even the erasure of DEI language from federal websites and training programs. Executive Order 14173 goes even further, resuscitating merit-based hiring and rescinding the Civil Rights Era Executive Order 11246. The political pressure isn't limited to the government. Corporations are feeling it too. Brands like Meta, Walmart, and Target have rolled back diversity initiatives under scrutiny and frequently rebranded their inclusivity efforts as belonging culture or people engagement to avoid overt political backlash. Some have even eliminated DEI floors altogether.
Is it effective?
No. In fact, it seems to be doing worse. It seems to be making people less likely to interact with people who are unlike them, because it's like a minefield now.
Less likely to interact.
After a training where you hear things about microaggressions, if you ask somebody what they do for a living, somehow that's racist, right? If you learn that, then why would you take a chance?
I better not talk to Eric because I might say something wrong.
Precisely. So now inclusion means I'm going to silence myself and not talk to the black people.
The story of Dark Woke isn't just about protests in the street or hashtags on the corporate website. It's about the kind of country we hand to the next generation. In the rush to adopt language of justice, we replaced debate with dogma. We taught young people that disagreement isn't part of democracy, it's violence. That silence isn't neutrality, it's guilt. And once those lessons took hold, they're hard to unlearn. A generation raised to see every interaction through the lens of oppression and privilege will carry that mindset into the voting booth, the courtroom, and the boardroom. And so we come back to the central question. What happens when you teach a generation that power is taken, not earned? That fear is more effective than persuasion? That enemies are permanent and compromise is betrayal? Because once those rules become the default, it's not the politics that changes. It's the culture, the economy, the ability for people to even live together without constant suspicion. And here's the most dangerous part. That next generation is already being trained to see America not as a home to be proud of, but as an enemy to be dismantled. In the classrooms, history is reframed to focus only on our failures, stripped of the context of progress or redemption. Patriotism is painted as ignorance, and loyalty to the country is mocked as blind obedience. A nation can survive its arguments over policy, over elections, over leaders, but it cannot survive if its own children are taught to despise its foundation. Because once that belief is gone, so is the will to defend it, from enemies abroad or from rot within. If Dark Woke keeps spreading, the real divide won't be woke versus anti-woke. It'll be between those who believe control justifies anything, and the rest of us fighting to remember what freedom and loyalty to our country truly means. Which side will you be on when that day comes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments or show ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks again.